Hiya yarn jugglers, it's Babs here from My Furry Phoenix, and today I'm going to take you through the tutorial to join your 2nd through to 15th panel, which means that you will be joining on these 3 sides. So I will grab my yarn, which is the beautiful clematis this time around, and I will start off and create the first row. You don't need to see me doing that yet again. And I will join you back here, ready to join the 2 corners and then fill in all the way around through the other 3 sides. So I'll see you shortly. So we worked our way from our original cast on of 2 trebles, 2 chains, 2 trebles into the top of every stitch all the way down the side, as we have done for every other round. And we're now ready to create 2 trebles in this corner in the 2 chain space. We're going to then chain 1 and join to our first side of the previous hexie. And so we chain the 1, and then as before we find our 2 chain space, and then we pop the hook through and slip the yarn up. We then create our treble just to finish off this corner, and then we move to the first free space. As before, we're going from stitch to space, so we go into that gap and slip, and then we go into our first treble on this side, into the next gap, and again we work our way down, stitch to gap, stitch to space, stitch to gap, stitch to space. That's why I keep saying gap, because I'm struggling with stitch to space, but you know that a gap is a space, so it's all good. And yep, continue to work our way down, and I will see you back in the corner. Here we are back in the corner. I've done my slip, and I'm now moving on to my last treble, slipping that into the last gap, and then we're going to do 1 treble, 1 chain, and as before I'm not going into either of these 2 corners. I'm actually going into the gap, the space between, so it's behind the link between the 2, and chain that over. So we've got the red joined to the storm, and we've got the clematis joined to the stitch where the red joins the storm. So we've got the 3 connecting at one point. Then I do the next treble, and then I move to the next available space. This first corner isn't the next available space because that's where I've just done my stitch, so I need to come to the next gap and then chain that slip stitch, and then slip that stitch through. Try and keep the storm away, and then move into the next stitch for a treble, and then we move in to the next gap and we slip that through. I'll just do that another couple of times for you. So you go into the top of the stitch for a treble, and then into the next available gap to slip it. So I shall continue round and come back to this corner, and by the time I get here you should pretty much know what you're doing, but I'll just demonstrate it anyway, just to be on the safe side. Here we are back at our last stitch and our last gap, so I will slip and then into the last treble before we hit the corner. Going to the top of the stitch rather than just one side of the stitch. There we go. And that's the last treble before the corner, into the last gap before the corner, and then we're going to do a treble and 1 chain, and then as before I'm not going into either of the actual corner stitches. I'm going to slip the hook between the 2 sticky fingers now. There we go. And then we move on to our next treble, which closes the corner. And that will then link to the next available stitch, which isn't the corner, it is the gap next to it. And then we're moving on to just powering down that side with every stitch linking to the next available gap. And you don't need to see me work my way down there because you've done that several times by now, but I will show you just one last time what happens when we come to this corner here, just to reassure you, because you've only seen that once already, so we'll just show you that one last time. And here we are at the end. We've got our last stitch into the corner now. I'll make that a treble. Into the corner. And then chain one. Don't forget the chain one, that gives us our decent spacing. And then into the centre of that corner. And then back to the corner of the hexie. And then that is that side edge finished, which gives us 3 really lovely flat joins, and every stitch and every gap is accounted for using this technique. And I'm now going to power on through and close up. You don't need to see me finish this off one last time, but hopefully if this joining has been of use to you and you've enjoyed it, please give it a like, a comment, a thumbs up, share it around, subscribe to the channel to see all the other tutorials, and I shall see you in the next video where we join along 4 sides, which is our last closing panel, our last closing motif. There will be no more hexes on this round after we've closed that 4th side. So I shall see you soon. Bye for now.